Hey, it's Rex. I'm back to do more rankings because the show is still on hiatus, and in the words of Dave Mustaine, got nothing better to do. So while Duff is away, I am going to be doing these YouTube videos and hopefully enjoy them. But with all the talk about Black Sabbath and Ozzy, I thought I'd do it probably 1,000 other people are doing and ranking the Black Sabbath albums. Black Sabbath's one of those bands that I always am aware of, but I never listen to them, and it's because I still remember 1986. I was watching TV, sitting on the floor, probably playing with my G.I. Joes or my G.I. Joes or my Transformers, and all of a sudden a Timex commercial comes on for the Iron Man watch, and I'm like, and I hear the song, and the song in the ad is and I looked at my parents, and I'm like, I kind of like that. Like, what song is that? And I swear they like immediately threw Black Sabbath's greatest hits on cassette at me. As a matter of fact, they handed me this greatest hits. Not this exact copy. Mine is long worn out and destroyed and everything else, but I did buy another copy for sentimental reasons. But of course, then that began my love with Black Sabbath. And from then I moved on to other things. Megadeth, of course, you all know the stories if you've listened to the show. But, so it's one of those bands where I think, like, if you look at an album, especially the era, because there's different eras. I know some people are the Dio era, some people are the Ozzy era, some people even like the Tony Martin era, some people even like the Ian Gillan era. There's all kinds of different flavors of Sabbath for you. But I've always been an Ozzy guy. I mean, I like the Dio stuff, don't get me wrong. I love the Dio stuff, but I've always just been an Ozzy guy. That's just the Sabbath I literally grew up with, literally remember hearing in my house, more so than the Dio stuff. But anyways, I digress. Let's jump right in. So, first order of business is the first Sabbath album. I got to drop that on A tier. It's got the classic Black Sabbath. It's got NIB. The Wizard. It's just a great album. I personally, it's I don't know. It's great. It's perfect. Now I wouldn't say it's absolutely perfect. It's a first album definitely, but all things it's good. Now I'm going to move on to Paranoid, because Paranoid I'm going to drop at an S tier because it's a perfect album for me. Fairies Wear Boots, Electric Funeral, one of my all-time favorite songs. War Pigs, of course, that's why there's a guy holding a sword. From what I remember reading, the album was originally supposed to be called War Pigs. So that was supposed to be the soldier like running with his sword or whatever. But I guess they changed it. I forget why, but it's Paranoid. The song Paranoid, Finish With My Woman, etc. Great album, definitely S tier album. Next, we're going to go Master of Reality. I'm also going to drop that. Man, it's going to be so hard not to just put the classic Ozzy albums on S tier, because Children of the Grave, Sweet Leaf, it's an awesome album. That does have a lot of filler, like Orchid, that kind of stuff, but I don't know. It's such a classic song. It's such a classic album. Sorry, yeah, Embryo, Children of the Grave, Into the Void. I mean, it's just amazing. Now, I will say I'm going to drop Volume 4 at also A tier. Reason being is because I do love St. Vitus Dance. I'm trying to remember is Sabotage in Volume 4 I always get mixed up a lot. Changes, I love that song. I'm cheating and looking at the track list. Supernaut was famously covered on the Tribute to Black Sabbath by Al Jurgensen, and rumors had Trent Reznor. Now my favorite Sabbath album, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I'm going to drop that on S tier. Look, it's my favorite album. Sabracadabra, Killing Yourself to Live, the title track, that the end of that title track, that riff alone, in my opinion, is my all-time favorite Black Sabbath riff. The dun 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 dun. That is just so grungy and sludgy and heavy and evil. It's just such an awesome track. Anyways, I've always loved the line, "The people who have crippled you, you want to see them burn." I've always loved that too. So
Next, we're going to do Sabotage. I'm also going to drop that on A tier. Again, you know, I love the title track. I love the version Sepultura did on Nativity in Black as well. I think it was is Hole in the Sky on this. Oh, man, I'm getting so mixed up now. Yeah, Hole in the Sky, Symptom of the Universe. Am I going insane? I ask you people, am I going insane? Love that track. So next, Technical Ecstasy, I've got to drop on D tier. It's just terrible. Like I could never get into it. I never liked the album. But I will say I'm gonna do something surprising. I'm gonna drop Never Say Die on B tier. I know that Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy are normally cited as the like bad Ozzy albums, so to speak. Technical Ecstasy I'll agree on. I think Never Say Die has its moments. I mean, the title track is a fun track. I listened to the album actually just recently, and it was one of those things where I listened to it again, and I'm like, for some reason, this isn't as bad as I remember it being, and I can't explain why. Anyways, Heaven and Hell, I'm going to drop on an A tier. Dio's debut album, back when Dio had to prove himself. Can you imagine a time when Ronnie James Dio had to go out in front of an audience and prove himself? Like, I'm wrapping your head around Ronnie James Dio walking out on stage and saying, okay, I got to win these people over. It doesn't seem real, especially with what he became, the legend that he became. The side A, and I say side A because, I'm thinking of the record, is very Neon Nights, Heaven and Hell, the title track, Children of this. I mean, it's a very side A heavy album. I will say I've always preferred Mob Rules. So I'm going to drop Mob Rules up there on S tier. As a work, I don't know. I don't know if I'd call it superior to Heaven and Hell, and I know a lot of people are gonna throw fits about that, but I've always preferred it. Now we have Born Again. Born Again is I'm going to drop it at C tier. It's got its moments. Zero the Hero is on there. It's not necessarily a bad album. I just kind of feel like it's a album. It's just kind of forgotten. It's one of those albums that people, I just, every time I listen to it, I'm like, it's not bad. It's just not classic. The next one I want to, oh my God. If I could create something below D tier, Seventh Star would go on that list because, wow. It was supposed to be a Tony Iommi side project. They decided that if they stamped the name Black Sabbath on there, it would sell more albums. So, yeah, I'm going to drop that on D tier. Eternal Idol, I'm going to drop that on A. Admittedly, Eternal Idol was one of those albums I never listened to much until recently. I completed my discography. That was the one I was missing. It was one of those times where the album was out of print. So I hunted it down. I bought it and the guy never shipped it, and it took like a month to ship, and it finally got here and I got it. And then as soon as I got it, 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, Record Store Day, we're really releasing Eternal Idol. And you're just like, you're happy now because more people can buy the album, but at the same time, you're like, I ran around looking for this thing everywhere, and then as soon as they finally track it down, you re-release it, which, whatever. Now we're going to get into the Tony Martin era. I picked up the box set on Duff's recommendation because I was never too into the Tony Martin era Sabbath, and I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't say that the Tony Martin era won me over. But I would say that, albums like Headless Cross, I'm dropping that at a B tier. I feel like it's still superior to Born Again, but, again, I feel like almost all the Tony Martin eras are going to be right around B. To me, they're not great. They're not bad. They're just kind of like, And I feel like I'm going to drop Tear at B. I know Duff's a huge fan of Tear. He loves Tear. He loves the Tony Martin era. But again, Now, Dehumanizer, I'm actually going to drop up on A. I love the album Dehumanizer. I picked up the big bonus. Actually, it's funny because I bought the bonus CD with like the 2 tracks and it has all the extra tracks, and then I actually bought the vinyl that has all that stuff too. I just love it. The song Time Machine's awesome. It was in Wayne's World. I mean, how can you go wrong with that? I think it's a really heavy album. I think that Dio sounds really good on it. It's unfortunate that they couldn't really work with Dio. I'm going to drop Cross Purposes and Forbidden both on B tier. Again, Tony Martin's Black Sabbath isn't bad, and I feel like it gets a bad rap sometimes. I know people look at those albums and think kind of like, it's not Dio, it's not Ozzy, who cares? But I kind of feel like they get a bad rap. 13's a tough one, because I think it's better than people would have expected it to be. But at the same time, I don't know if it ranks. I'm also going to drop that on B. I listened to it again recently, and, I really enjoy it. Now, I don't think it weighs as heavy as some of these other Sabbath albums up on S and A tier, but I still enjoy the album. And I know it's new Sabbath, and I know it's not the original lineup, and the guy from Rage Against the Machine is in there, and Bill Ward's nowhere to be found, etc. But, again, I think it's still it was a solid album. Now, whatever, how it came to be about, whatever. But so this is my ranking for Sabbath. S tier, you got Paranoid, Master of Reality. You have Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. You have Mob Rules. You have A tier, you have Black Sabbath, Volume 4, Sabotage, Heaven and Hell, Eternal Idol, Dehumanizer. B tier, you have Never Say Die, Headless Cross. Tier, Cross Purposes, Forbidden. 13. C tier, you have Born Again. D tier, you have Technical Ecstasy and Seventh Star. And again, if I could just wipe Seventh Star from existence, I probably would do so. Anyways, that's my Sabbath ranking. If you ever, if you want to check us out, we have 100 episodes or so of the show up on every podcasting place available. That's the Heavy Metal Hangover. Check us out. But in the meantime, I'll see you again next time.